In today's episode, I have a fantastic guest, and we're going to be talking all about how to actually love your body and fall in love with it and not have that hatred and that desperate need to manipulate. Welcome to today's episode, and I'm really, really excited to introduce Marla Mervis Hartman. Marla is the creator of Love Your Body, Love Yourself. She helps women access their yes to that question after experiencing years of dysfunction in relation to food, exercise, and body confidence. Marla transformed her life through the radical act of self-compassion and friending herself. She has since used her experiences to empower women as they choose appreciation for their bodies, honor themselves through nourishing lifestyles, and cultivate confidence along the way. Marla, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, it's really great to hear you. As I said before, I'm like, I feel like I know you because I've been listening to your podcast. Yeah, I've been really enjoying, I was listening last week to the one about binge eating, that Jack story, and I thought that was just so powerful. It reminded me of one of my clients. And actually, the book that she read, Healing in the Light of the Moon, is written by a woman who created the eating disorder recovery center that I work at here in Maui.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that was kind of cool because so I see all the women there reading that book, and yeah, it's such a powerful book. And that's a great episode for people who are dealing with binge eating. And yeah, so I like that one a lot.
That's Anita, isn't it, that wrote that book?
Yes.
Yeah, she's on my wish list for a guest, actually. I do need to reach out to her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think she'd be an amazing guest. Okay, just before we dive into the actual episode, let's have a few random icebreaker questions. So, if you were a member of a fictional family, what family would that be?
Like I could make up that family.
No, like in a novel or a film or something like
Oh,
that.
Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, amazing. Which one would you be?
Oh, Laura. I'd love to be Laura.
I love that. Do you know, I had the tune to Little House on the Prairie stuck in my head like 3 weeks ago, and I've no
Oh,
idea where it came from.
I'm so sorry though, because that one,
It's strange how that happens, isn't it? You
it
can
is
just
so
suddenly
strange.
get a song that you haven't heard for decades
No,
stuck
how
in your head.
odd.
That's
Yeah.
random. Actually, let's make that the next question. What's the last earworm song that got stuck in your head?
Oh gosh, my son listens to this song. I'm so sorry that I'm going to sing it for everyone because I don't want to get in your head, but it's going to happen. I'm a banana, I'm a banana, I'm a banana. Look at me, I'm a banana. It's awful.
That is absolutely hilarious. Thankfully, I've never heard that song.
Yes, and hopefully you'll never hear that again, especially not in your head.
That's
Yeah,
really unusual lyrics, isn't it?
it's just banana.
Is your son quite young?
He's 11.
Ah, that's a
He's
very
30,
strange
he's
song.
33. No, I'm kidding.
Of that. That's absolutely brilliant. Oh, fantastic. What's your favorite sound in the world?
I love the sound of a champagne bottle going boop. Just like
Fantastic.
it just makes me so happy. It's just like boop. It just like the pressure and the relief and then the knowing that I'm gonna have something yummy. Just it just makes me go, ah.
Amazing. That tells us so much about you. Oh, okay, so on the subject of that, then, that leads beautifully into what's one party trick you have or would like to have?
Well, I'm a great dancer, so I can really I can do the worm, which I've definitely done at parties. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. I would love to see that. Can we have a demo of that on the video?
No.
And the
Not in
banana song.
not in, not in this little office.
Oh, when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, fantastic answer. In Greece?
Yeah, Grease, Xanadu, all of her, Totally Hot, the album Totally Hot. I know all the words to that, but yeah, definitely I wanted to be Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, I love that. That's a brilliant answer. Um, what's the kindest thing you've done for yourself today?
I took a nap.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been doing that a lot, at least lying down. And it's just so good. It's just so good.
Mm,
Yeah.
love that. That's really listening to your body and meeting your needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, just saying that, like, I know that just sounds like, oh, I just took a nap, but like for me, that is a monumental experience that I nap on a regular basis and that I just would never ever have done that. Like it's just like you go and you go and you go and you go until you collapse. And to learn how to listen and lie down when you have things I should be doing is it's it's been a big journey for me.
I totally hear you on that. And also on the shoulding yourself.
Absolutely, because there's always something to do. As soon as I lie down, I'm like, oh, I forgot that, and I forgot that. I forgot to text that person or call that person. It's just like, just lie down, just stay here. You can get to it later.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And one last question. If you had a magic wand and could wave it and change one thing about yourself, the world, your family, whatever you wanted, but you could change one thing, what would you change?
You know what I feel really deep when you say that is that just the level of anxiety that everyone's having in the world, right? It's like everyone is so anxious. And I really do think it's a spiritual issue. It's like people don't have a connection to anything other than just what's going on here, and that it can be so challenging. So I think I would just wave it and have everyone just have that anxiety, just what I was just talking about with the napping, like it just is easy, right? Like I think I would want to do that.
Oh, that's so beautiful just to let it go.
Let it go. Yeah, which is interesting. I wouldn't have thought I would have said that, but here we are.
But what comes first to your mind is always the best answer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start diving in. So, just before we start asking the proper questions, if one of the listeners was to take everything you said, all the advice you give in this episode, and follow it to the letter, what changes could they see in their life?
It would be my deepest intention that they would realize that there's hope, that there's hope for them to feel good about themselves. There's hope for them to know that they can change their relationship with their body and their change their relationship with their food, and that they would actually have some very practical tools to do that. And also learn how to, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but how to become their own best friend through this journey of healing our relationship with our body and our food. Because our body and our food are just symptoms for something deeper going on. So, this conversation that we're having around food and body is like always pointing to something deeper that we can love about ourselves. So I would want people to understand that and get that and then leave here with some tools to actually make that happen.
Amazing. And I just, I feel that so much because being your own best friend is everything. It changes everything, doesn't it? It's just a whole different life that has so much more peace in it.
Yeah, it really does. And I just wrote a book and just put it out, and it's called Befriend Yourself: Finding Freedom with Food and Peace with Your Body. And when I was writing it, It also took me through another layer of healing, right? Because I'm writing this down and I'm going through all of the stuff that that I process, but there's still things there to work through, right? And I'm like, what is the through line of my healing? And it's like, oh, I learned how to become my own best friend. I learned how to listen to myself and I learned how to tune in and I learned how to trust myself and to trust my body. I learned how to ask for help. I learned to stop being so mean to myself and cutting myself up all the time and being so critical, right? And all these little pieces help me to find freedom. Freedom with living in this body, freedom with being with my meals and my food and all of that.
I hear you so much. And when you step back out of the noise in your head and all the negative thoughts and the critical thoughts, and just ask yourself the question, why wouldn't you be kind to yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and I think the reason that we aren't is because we don't think we deserve it because we ate that thing, or we don't look the way that we're supposed to. So why would we be kind to ourselves? Like we deserve to be looked at and said all these negative things because we need to get the whip out because, I know if I didn't have the whip out, then I wasn't going to get on it and stay on it and lose that weight and be on it. So my whip was my way of controlling,
Yeah,
right? Because to be nice feels like feels like we're giving up. Like people are like when I say acceptance, and it's just like I can't accept this. If I accept it, that means I'm giving up on myself. I'm like, no, it's actually not that. It's not that at all. Like accepting where you are and accepting what you ate and how you did and accepting it with love is actually getting to the truth. It cuts through the shame, it cuts through everything and just puts us into this moment, right?
yeah,
These moments where I've been like walking out the door, right? And looking in the mirror and being like, "Oh God," right? And then it's just like, "Okay, this is what I look like right now. This is my body. I can't lose 10 pounds in the next 2 minutes. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to have a good day or are we going to walk out the door feeling like crap about ourselves? I accept that this is my body today, and now I'm going to make the most of my day from this body that I'm in. And that's choice. But when we're in it and we're in that constant spin of being negative to ourselves, we don't realize we have that choice. And what I have found, and I wonder how you feel about this, Julia, it's like when I have put myself down, that is when my food has been even worse. Like when I'm feeling good about myself, I feel like I have more freedom with my food. I feel like there's more ease around it. But when I'm making myself wrong for what I look like or what I've eaten, it's law of attraction, right? It just builds on it, right?
absolutely. Yeah, the more negative you say about yourself or to yourself, the more negative you feel. And it really struck me in my recovery when I realized that, I mean, I was queen bitch to myself. I was so, so awful. I mean, if I had treated anybody else like that, it would have been abuse and I could
Right,
quite possibly have been arrested.
right.
It was that awful. And I realized that I have to spend the rest of my life with myself. I can't get away from me. So why wouldn't I want to be kind to myself? Because it feels so much nicer.
So much nicer. But see, it's so normalized to be mean.
It
You know,
is.
people will come to me, or clients I'm starting to work with are like, well, I'm just kind of mean. I'm really mean to myself. I'm really critical. And then they go on and start talking like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's slow this down here. No, it's not okay that you're being critical. It's not okay that this is what's happening, right? They're just thinking like, this is just normal. Let's get on to the next thing. Like, no, this is the thing.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel okay when you do it either, does it?
No, it doesn't feel okay, but it becomes such a habit
Yeah.
that once again, it's like we have to become really aware. I mean, if you would ask me, Julia, what is the number one thing that you can do for yourself to heal your relationship with your body, food, and that this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Stop being mean, stop shaming yourself, stop putting yourself down. And
And
you
you,
may not feel good about what you may look in the mirror and it might not be the way you think it's supposed to be, or your food may not be the way that you want it to be. However, it just doesn't give us the right.
no, and you said one really important word there, which was being aware.
Mhm.
And I would say that's the first step,
It is.
is the awareness, being aware of how differently you speak to yourself compared to how you speak to other people, how abusive you are to yourself. And that once you start being aware and noticing it, noticing how it feels, that's when you can start to make the changes, which feel fake to begin with. It feels like you're lying to yourself, doesn't it? It feels like just so uncomfortable and so like it's not true. Like, I don't believe what I'm saying to myself here. But the more
Yeah,
we,
well, there's like to go from that place of like, I'm disgusting, I'm gross, to like, oh my gosh, I like want to make love to myself, right? It's it's
oh, you
such
can't.
it's so far. It's like going
Yeah.
from 0 to 10. And so, but there is that in between,
Yeah. To
right?
be neutral.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, neutrality is like it is to be, I mean, that's really some of this is like that, they talk about body positivity and body neutrality. It's like if we're just neutral about our body, if we're just neutral about our food, that's where the peace is. That's
Yeah.
where it's not like, because I know there are times where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good in my body. Like it's like, don't get too attached
A
because
some
these
change
bodies are always changing, you
always.
know, and as women, they change throughout, if you're still bleeding, like they change throughout the month, right? And
Yeah.
we have to ride that wave and not get too attached to it, right?
Yeah. If you look at the difference between a newborn baby and an old lady, you can see that body has been through so
A
much
lot.
change.
Yeah.
And that's what happens through our lives. Our bodies change all the time. And
Right.
so, this control that we think we have, which is an illusion, is fighting what is,
Yeah.
which fighting what is just is
It's,
exhausting and
it's
is never
exhausting.
ending.
Yeah.
We kind of got carried away straight into a conversation, which I guessed would happen. I think we could probably talk for hours. But could you tell us a little bit about your story and what has led you to where you are today and why you do what you do?
Yeah. So I I had a very dysfunctional relationship with my body and food for a very young, as I was very young. Um, I found my journals from when I was my diary, right? I found my diary this is actually my TEDx talk if anyone's watched it. Um, but my entries in that were all about what I ate and what my weight was. And I remember finding them and looking at my journal, and this is when I was in my late 30s, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm saying the same thing with different food and different numbers. And I'm like, whoa, this is insane. Right? So this was around for a long time. I was very restrictive, over exerciser, controlling my food. Then the restriction then would lead to binging. And so I had this idea, and I really thought that if I got my body to that certain weight and I got my food in control, because I thought I was just out of control with food. And if I got that settled and figured out that my life was going to be better, because I really felt that that was really the only thing I had going. I had great family, all the things. I mean, this is the major issue. And then when I had that number set and my life looked like crap, and I've definitely hit some dark nights of the soul in with my relationship with my body and food. And that was one of them when I got on that scale and I was that magical number and I was miserable. I was just so miserable. And I was like, okay, this is deeper. This has nothing to do with that. And that's when I'm like, I need help. I need help. And so my journey of getting help was long. It took me a while. There were not a lot of you and I's out there talking about this. There weren't podcasts, there weren't, people talking about it the way that we can relate to this, right? And so I had to kind of figure it out on my own by doing, I did some 12 step, I did some therapy, I learned Reiki. Reiki is, for those of you who don't know, it's a energy healing practice and a spiritual practice. And it is calling in this higher vibration of love, universal life force, and it releases stress in your body so that it can heal itself. So I learned that early on in my recovery, and that became really my biggest advocate for those moments. It gave me another coping mechanism other than food,
Yeah.
right? And then it also gave me access to a loving energy that I could call into my body when I couldn't access that on my own. And so that then opened me up to learning so many other modalities and so many other things that have really helped heal me. Learning about Tantra and doing a lot of work on healing my relationship with sexuality and sensuality. And that was deeply connected to my hatred for my body, right? And then over time, I learned how to trust, and it took time. I wasn't willing to turn over my food and my body like fully. I had to kind of do this like, okay, I'll do that for a little while, then let me take it back, right? And so it was like this journey of controlling, letting go, and surrendering, controlling and letting go and surrendering. And so I would get more and more time of feeling good. And then there would be the contraction, and then it would be more and more. And then then it was finally like, I think I'm good. Been I'm good. I feel, and then that's when it hit me. It's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to teach people and guide people the way that, and take them through this whole process that I've been on. Um, so that's kind of like the overview of what my story looks like. Um, but yeah, and Reiki is a big part of that, and it's something that I bring into everything that I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's, I honestly, I totally get you when you're saying, this is what I needed to do. This is what I'm meant to do, to share this, to guide other people, because the feeling you have inside yourself when you change your relationship with yourself changes everything in your world, doesn't it?
It really does. And like, I think this is the thing, and I'm maybe preaching to the choir because you're listening to this podcast, but some people don't realize that they're, they think they have to be really, really, really sick in order to get help. They think that it's like, oh, well, I'm not like anorexic, I still eat, or but the thing is like,
Big enough, I'm not a low enough weight.
not low enough weight, or I'm not high enough weight, or but it impacts us so much. It's like this low grade dis disgust, dissatisfaction, and that impacts everything. It impacts our relationships. It impacts how we show up in the world. It impacts our ability to see and feel, because we're in this like little tiny, I'm like, I used to live in this little tiny world of little Marla figuring out her little body and her little food, and is missing out on life, missing out on presence, missing out on people, missing out on being of service, right? And so I would just say, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know, am I sick enough? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not about being sick enough. It's about you allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to say, I am worth taking a step. Now, you may not even feel worthy yet, right? And that may be the thing that you're working with, but I'm willing to be worthy, right?
Yes.
I'm
I
willing
love
to
that.
take that step to say that I want to do this, right? And so I know for me, I'm just like, when I look back on my life and I look back to where it was, because, and you and I were talking a little bit before, it's like, I never thought I would ever feel better.
No, I
I
didn't.
never, ever thought. I can remember lying in my bed after like big swollen belly, eating way too much. I'm just like, this is my life.
Mm.
This is my life. I'm not going to know how to
Yeah, I've been in
eat
it
like
too long. I'm too old. It's too late, and all the things.
I've done all the things,
Yeah.
right? And that's good. You've done all the things. And you know what? There's another way. And that other way is ditching the diet culture, ditching the ideas of what you've been told, and coming back to love, coming back. And I know that sounds kitschy or whatever, but it's true. It's at the end of the day, that is the answer. It is the answer.
So much. I'm quite a visual person, and I liken the way we treat ourselves, the negative way, as every negative word, there's like another dark cloud comes over you until you are surrounded by these just dark storm, oppressive clouds, and there's no light in your world.
Hmm.
And every time you reframe those thoughts and you start to even just be neutral with yourself rather than negative, you're letting a glimmer of light come in between the clouds. And the kinder you are to yourself, the more loving you are to yourself, the sun starts breaking through the clouds. And by the end, well, there's never an end, is there? We're always growing, always evolving. Self discovery never stops. But the end of the eating disorder, the end of that negativity, you're in sunshine. And of course, an odd cloud will always come by because life happens, but you live in the light rather than in that dark, stormy, oppressive place. And it's so different.
It is very different. And I think what you're talking about, it's available, it's possible, but I'm sure everyone listening is like, well, how the heck do I do that? How the heck do I, after I've had a binge or I've had all this, how do I come to the place of light? Like, how is that even possible? Right? And I get that. I get that there's that experience of like, I don't maybe even don't even want to, right? Because I don't know how. It just feels awful.
I
So
don't
there's this,
deserve it.
yeah, all the things. And there is that it's important to feel, right? It's important to allow ourselves to feel like this feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I do not feel good about myself, right? And that's not what you're talking about. You're not talking about spiritually bypassing or anything. I'm not getting that you are saying that. But like it's that balance of like I'm going to feel what I feel. And then I'm not going to stay in this and I'm not going to live here because when we're in that place where we're feeling bad about ourselves and then we start making choices from here, they're never the right choices, right? So feel the feelings and then get yourself into a better place. And when you're in that neutrality, when you've gotten clear, then you can make choices. Then you can make the plan of action. But it's like and I'm just thinking about people who have had that big binge, right? They've had the big binge and now they're like in the shame. And now from that place of shame, they're making this, they're making the plan to figure out how to take care of what that just happened, right?
Mhm.
Not a good idea. Don't make the plan from there, right? Get yourself in a good in a better feeling place. Get yourself into the place of, wow, I feel so sorry that I am doing this. I'm really not wanting to, right? And I'm struggling. Like the way you would talk to a friend, the way that it's just like, wow, this is really challenging. I don't want to be binging. I don't want to be restricting. I don't want to be dieting. I don't know any other way. And I'm here again. How do I get out of this? So this is like getting really truthful, like this is what I'm feeling, right? Rather than it's like you feel it's slightly different than the shame. It meets it from a place of love rather than from a place of I'm gross. I can't believe I'm doing this. What the fuck am I doing? Doing it again? And no, 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 no. It's like there's a reason why we do these behaviors because we don't know what else to do,
Yes, it's a coping
right?
mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism. We don't know. We haven't figured it out. We haven't, there's more to learn, there's more to grow. And sometimes life is big and life is hard, right? And it's like if food is your coping mechanism, then it's likely you're going to go to the food, right? Especially if you're still in the journey of recovery, right? And so from the place of really allowing themselves to feel and then getting yourself into the place of accepting and being like, okay, that just happened. Now the plan of action can be a little more loving. Okay, what can I do for myself now that my belly feels uncomfortable? What can I do to make myself feel better? Not from the punishing place, but from the place of like, I actually do want to do something nice for myself because I just beat myself up with food for a long time. But
Yeah.
it's not in reaction, it's a loving response. Very different.
Yes, there is a huge difference between reacting and responding, isn't there?
There sure is. Yeah, just ask my husband.
Oh, oh, come
Yeah.
on, you've got to tell us more on that. What? Why?
Oh, well, you know how relationships are. They say something and then you react, right? Or
Yes,
you take a moment, you take a breath, and you respond, right?
absolutely.
That's
It's that
like,
breath, isn't it?
if,
It's taking that breath and just giving yourself that moment in everything.
yeah,
Whatever happens just before you do anything, just take that 2 seconds, breathe, and then respond rather than react.
right. And that can feel really hard because it feels like the feeling that you're feeling is never going to go away and you're going to like, the anger or whatever, but it does pass. It will pass. As we said, we're always changing and our emotions are
Yeah.
changing, our bodies are changing, all of it. Yeah.
And if you need evidence that it passes, everything has so far in your life. Everything has passed. You've got through everything because you're still
Every,
here. So, can we go deeper into the concept of befriending yourself then? How does this work and why is it so important in the context of body image and food freedom?
well, I think it gives us a tool. It gives us a tool to use when we don't know what else to do. So I always encourage my clients to and I have one of these too. I have like a emergency list. I have it written down. I probably could find it. I have a pretty piece of paper and I have all the things that I can do when I'm in angst. Because when we're in angst and we're in overwhelm, we don't know what to do,
No, no,
right? It's
like that
like
rational brain goes offline.
it just goes completely away. And it's like, I learned all these tools, but I have no idea what to do now. So I'm like, put it somewhere that you always know where it is. And it's like, I have mine. It's like, call my sister, take a breath, do some Kundalini yoga, jump up and down, scream. I have like this whole list that I can go to remind myself. And becoming our becoming our own best friend in there, right? So in that moment where I am wondering how to handle a situation, the thought is, what would I do if I was being my own best friend? How
Mm-hmm.
would I handle this situation? what would I do? How would I handle a situation? One of the things that has always been challenging for me, and maybe it is for anyone who's listening, is eating dinners and eating around other people.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's
It,
such a fear of judgment, of eating more, of it's just a minefield of fear, isn't it?
it is, yeah. It's been so stressful for me. So to take this idea of what would I tell my own best friend to do, right? And so by asking that question, it's like, oh, I'd probably tell her, why don't you just sit and think about how you want it to be later and maybe say some prayers about it, or, have a loose plan. Be nice to yourself if it doesn't work out perfectly. Know that you may be a little bit afraid, but that doesn't mean you have to, dive head first into a big thing of hummus and, like, I would talk to myself. I would work it out, right? And rather than just as we're talking about reacting or responding, it's like slowing down. So if we take that into every situation that we're in with our food and with our body, that just changes the whole playing ground, right? It makes us be less punishing. It makes us want to be kind to ourselves because the more we do it, the more we want to do it, and the more it feels better. So I think it's such a tool. It's like my go-to.
Do you know what's just come into my head? It's quite random, actually. When I was little, my dad used to tell me that the first sign of madness was talking to yourself.
Well, we all do it.
And
Every one of us.
I think that really affected me. I think that was
Yes.
one of the things that made me not encourage myself. And you're right, we do all do it. And for some reason, it was okay to do it internally and negatively, but not positively, not with neutrality, not with any form of love or kindness.
Right. That's so interesting. It's so interesting what we pick up you know, from our childhood and the misunderstandings that we have around some of it. And that's what's so great about going on this healing journey with our food and our body, because we get to uncover some of these deeper places, and we
Yeah.
get to see like, oh, in this moment of time in my life where I wasn't treated the way that I should have been. And some of it is little t trauma and some of it's big T trauma. And it's like we get to look at that a little bit deeper and show up for ourselves the way that we wish someone else would have shown up, right? Inner child work at its very simplest, right?
Yes.
And and that's really how to heal,
Yeah.
because we are the only ones that know what we really need.
And it's interesting that, I mean, when my dad said that comment, when I look back from a much clearer minded, healed adult perspective, I think he was probably joking.
Oh,
But my child brain, with the lack of maturity and probably the lack of analytical mind at that point, because it just wasn't fully developed at that time,
yeah.
took that as, oh, well, I don't want to be mad. I need to not do that. I don't want people to think I'm mad. And it took it as a rule, as
Mhm.
something I had to follow. And it's unpicking that work. The work is unpicking that, unpicking those things that, from my dad's point of view, that was probably a really innocent comment and probably a joke. I mean, he always said some terrible dad jokes. But it's amazing how our child brain can take things. And when we start this healing work and start looking at the beliefs we have about ourselves, we can look back and I can say, look, I thought I wasn't allowed to be nice to myself from an innocent joke.
Right. Yeah, that's what's so great. We just get to go delete. That's not,
Yeah.
that's not my belief. Oh, I've been believing that. Oh, that's not mine. That's my dad's, or that's my
Yeah.
sister, or that it just has been living here and I didn't even know it was someone else's. I don't need, and some of it is just easy, right? Some of it is, I mean, that's the thing with this healing. Like, some of it is like, I know people, a lot of people get kind of afraid. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to uncover here.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And
that
sometimes
is,
hard things come up.
and that is valid, right? And I think that there's some validity in knowing that we do need support.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that we uncover, I mean, I don't know if I couldn't have done this on my own
No, I couldn't.
level.
I absolutely couldn't because as you say, some of the stuff you uncover is painful. It is hard. And once you've gone through that pain, once you've processed it, you do feel so much better for uncovering it, for going through it, for unpicking it, even if it hurts at the time.
Yeah, because you're carrying it around. So even
Yeah.
if it's not, what happens is when we love it and we bring it up, we feel it, but we feel it and it releases. It's like
Yes.
having a splinter that you press on, then it comes out, right? It's painful, then it's out.
Yeah.
And but if we just leave the splinter in, it taints everything, right? It's like you feel like your whole body is a splinter that's down in your foot, right? I mean, it's always there.
But
And
when it
it's a
comes up, it's
low
because,
grade pain.
yeah. And it comes up when it's ready to be healed. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I know that there were some things early on for me that I was aware of. I'm like, what is that? And it's like, that's not ready to come out yet. And
Yeah,
that's okay. We need to trust in the process, right? And so, yeah, I think that doing this work is is courageous.
absolutely. It is. And we have the courage to do it. Even if you don't think you have the courage to do it. Just listening to a podcast on healing is courageous. That's starting to explore the why.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean just what I was saying earlier as far as like it's not where we have to give up everything. There's almost this feeling like I'm not ready to give up my food, right? I'm not ready to give up my dieting. And it's like, well, you don't have to give it all up right away. This is a slow process of getting the body ready, right? Because if the nervous system is jacked up, like when my nervous system is jacked up and then I go tell myself to take a nap, it's like, yeah, let's
Not going
do
to happen,
that.
is it?
Sure, that's real great. No, I have to do some other things to take care of myself where I can actually go and lie down. It's the same thing with our bodies. It's like the courage to just step in a little bit, the courage to not go on a diet, the courage to, not look up calories, like all these little tiny things, the courage to not look in a mirror when you walk by to make sure that you look okay. There are all these moments where we reclaim our power, where
Yes.
we step into that, right? So it's, when Julie and I are talking about this courageousness, you don't have to feel like you're leaving everything behind. It's because it's so cyclical, right? And I think it is that way for a reason.
Yes, absolutely. And I know I certainly did this, and I hear this from a lot of my clients is looking at the whole picture all at once and just going into a state of panic. And it's absolutely overwhelming. And this is why it is literally what can I do today? One step at a time. We can deal with tomorrow tomorrow. You can't do everything at the same time because, well, I used to think my head would explode, to be quite honest.
Yeah, Totally.
It is
Yeah.
just one step at a time, just one moment at a time.
And that is becoming your own best friend. That is befriend. That is the process of befriending, right? Is taking those small steps. And then sometimes you have that momentum to take a leap, right? And then we like, oh my gosh, I live to tell the story. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived to tell the story. Here I am, right?
And that's another key fat point, isn't it? Noticing that you got through it.
Yeah, feels
Not
like a
just
miracle.
focusing on the next thing, but noticing that you did that. You survived, you got through it. That was brave. And you did well. You deserve to celebrate yourself.
Yeah. Things have seasons, and our behaviors
Absolutely.
and our coping mechanisms can have a season, and they can have a season that we never go back to,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, everything has seasons, doesn't it? Our whole life has seasons.
Totally.
Even friendships and relationships have seasons. Tell me, how does befriending yourself help with friendships and relationships?
Well, if I'm a nicer person to myself, I'm going to be a nicer person to everyone else,
So much.
right? I mean, there's love present, right? There's a there's an energy of love. Just by being kind to ourselves, we're in a frequency of love, and that exudes out to everyone. And as far as relationships, as far as, a lot of parents are like, I don't want to pass this on to my kids, right? And so, and and I know that in my generation, I've had many clients that are like, I was never taught how to put myself first. I was never taught
Why
how
was
to love myself. It was like I was teaching them, and they were like, "Are you sure I'm allowed to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, not only are you allowed, you need to. This is your medicine right now." And so when we can lean into that, we teach our children that they're allowed to love themselves, that they're allowed to take care of themselves, because that's what parents want. They want their kids to be, you know, loving. They look at them, they're like, there's nothing you can't love about this being, right? I think about my son, right? I want to teach him to love himself.
yeah.
But the way that I teach him to love himself is not for me just continuing to tell him that he's adorable and I want to listen to I'm a banana with him. It's for me to model what it means to love myself so that he gets that modeling. So it's one of these very powerful ways of doing it. So to heal ourselves and to become our own best friend, we almost give permission.
Absolutely. Totally. That's happened in my family, both my husband, my children, and even my mum, who
Mhm.
had a very self critical outlook and always worrying about what people would think about her and stuff. And my healing and my transformation, the ripple effect is incredible because it literally does give permission to other people. When I've put boundaries in place, which I really needed to do, it's given other people in my life permission to do the same.
Yes.
And it's incredible how all my relationships have strengthened and become deeper, or I've discovered the relationships that weren't right, the
Right.
people that were in my life that weren't actually my people. And you,
Yeah.
when you're your authentic self and you're kind to yourself, you truly feel more accepted by others because you're accepting yourself. And when you're not accepting yourself, you don't really believe that anyone else accepts you. Because if you're not accepting yourself, you think you're unacceptable.
Right. Yeah. And even when they do say they accept you and love you, don't really believe them.
Maybe just being polite or just being nice or
Right. You're beautiful. Like, well, I'm glad you think that. I wish I did.
yeah. And you just don't really believe them.
And you said something really powerful just about boundaries. I think that that's a big thing for people to learn that. To
Yes.
learn. And I know that I've learned that from my husband. He is so good at setting boundaries. And gosh, early on in our marriage, I would just be like, how dare you? Who do you think you are setting a boundary like that? I don't do that. Why do you think you can? I'm like, oh, I could.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do that too. Took me years to um, actually be able to step into that even more and set very specific boundaries that are like, sure, okay, no
Yeah.
big deal,
I,
no big deal to set them.
I've even set one this morning. My husband is very work orientated. He's a lovely, lovely guy. And he's helping me with my business now. And he's helping me with, I'm building a course and he's helping me with that. And he said, right, today, after you've finished doing the podcast recordings you're doing, the consultations you're doing, and all the things that I'm doing today, um, let's spend a few hours going over some of the course stuff. And I said, actually, the stuff I'm doing today has made my day full enough. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to take a rest and I'm not going to be doing the course today. And the old me would have just done it, would have just people pleased, would have been like, oh, yeah, I've got to do that. I should do that. I should do that. And been go, 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 go and exhausted and sacrificing my needs. And I didn't. And it felt totally okay.
That
And
is so good, girl. Yeah, because that's the energy you want to put into this course, right? You're teaching people how to take care of themselves. And it's
yes,
like if your whole energy around creating the course is where you're sacrificing yourself in your own, it doesn't have the right, I mean, people, I think we pick up on that.
you do
It's like
pick
that
up on
looks
that.
like a
Yeah.
great course, but there's something about it. It's like, oh, because it was built out of like not the truth of what the message is,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that is so powerful to say no, and especially because he wants to help you, and you
Yes.
should do it when he wants to, right? And it's just like,
Yeah. No, I that's going to be
we'll be
pushing
done.
my energy further than it's okay for me to go.
Right.
Because I've learned again through my healing journey that I need rest, that I need downtime, that I do not feel good when I'm go, 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 that I need peace, quiet, nature, rest, meditation, time to just curl up on the sofa with a novel, which is like my happiest place ever.
Mm, that's good.
And I need those things to be the best version of me. And so now having the confidence through my healing journey to actually set those boundaries and meet my needs has made a huge difference.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
So tell me, how can people contact you? How can they read your book, which you've just recently released?
Yeah, let me tell you it all. Okay. So I love hearing from people. So my Instagram is love your body, love yourself always.
I'll put all these links in the show
Yeah,
notes as well.
tell me what's going on. Share with me what's happening. Let me know if I can support you in any way. Like, get the conversation going here, right? So you can go to my website, which is loveyourbodyloveyourself.com. You're going to see there that I have a free course called Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Eating. It's a free course, but I give a lot of value in that. So check that out. And then my book, it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It's available, internationally. And if you go to my website, if you go to loveyourbodyloveyourself.com/book, you'll see where you can press that order button, and then you can put in your order number and your name and your email. And then I'm going to send you my Body Compassion Collective course for free. Also, I'm doing a Befriending Yourself workshop towards the end of October. So if you're listening to this right away, those are some of the gifts that you're going to get literally by buying the book and making a little review on Amazon. So that would be I would love for everyone to read it. I would love to hear your feedback. I think that if you're listening to this podcast, this book is going to serve you because it's going to tell a story that you're probably going to relate to. And there's a lot of client stories, there's a lot of things in here that are very practical, very real. You kind of get my personality from hearing me talk. It's funny as well. There's just some, yeah, some good stuff in there. And I'm very excited to share it with you all.
I shall certainly be getting it. It sounds like a great tool to have and a great read as well. Marla, thank you so much. It's been such an amazing conversation. Is there anything that we haven't chatted about that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Oh my gosh, well, there's so many things we can talk about,
Any
right?
one thing, let's say one thing.
Yeah, what I hope that everyone really heard from both myself and from Julia is really the importance of not talking to yourself negatively. I said that at the beginning. We've said about it throughout. This has kind of been the through line of this whole thing is, becoming your own best friend and taking that tool to look at how are you speaking to yourself and choosing another way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so much awareness, neutrality, friendship. Beautiful.
beautiful. Thank you, Julia, so much. Good
You,
stuff.
honestly, I think
Yay.
we could have chatted for ages, but obviously we both have times and things we have to get on with. So,
Yeah, I have to
um,
go to bed.
yeah, we're in completely different time zones. Um, thank you so much, listeners, again for being here. I'm so grateful for you tuning in week after week, and I will see you next week.